Now, I'm not really a fan of meta builds. I don't really like running what everyone else is running. I generally like to play a little bit differently, or at least, go into a more interesting aspect of a build. But what we can see from Title Update 11 is that the developers have decided to focus a little bit more on up-close playstyles. We can see the Bellstone Armory with, armor regen, armor on kill. We can look at the Hunter's Fury, obviously, armor on kill, health on kill, SMGs, shotguns, their amplified damage within a 15-meter radius. We've also got the two exotics, Ridgeway's Pride, which, gives you that bleed and basically that armor repair whenever you're, within range of bleeding targets. And then we've got the Memento backpack, which basically just gives you the ability to get more armor regen and, buff your skills, buff your damage by picking up the dog tags or the mementos, as I guess they're called. Just a lot of investment into up-close playstyles. Now, because of that, because of all these up-close builds, and, just to judge how powerful they are, I really, kind of felt that going into the previous TU10 meta of Adrenaline Rush, Intimidate, and Armor Regen would actually be a good point of focus for comparing all these other builds. Now, obviously, if you've been around Adrenaline Rush and Intimidate, there's not too many, new combinations of it, and I'm not going to say that what I'm doing is anything new or different. But this is just kind of, my little take on it. Now, just to start it off here real quick, I am using the firewall specialization, and that's mostly for the armor kit that you get, 200% over 10 seconds, and the team buff that you get, which means that your allies basically deal 10% damage to enemies that you're within 10 meters of. My weapons, of course, I'm running Lady Death just because that's probably the best burst fire weapon just in the game. And there's no denying it. I mean, it pretty much is the best thing for this type of build. The second weapon that I'm using is the mop. Obviously, we know that has, the armor on kill. I've rolled it with preservation. My sidearm is the card custom. Now, there's no real particular reason I am using this. My shield's already at tier 6. My second skill doesn't really get that much of benefit from an additional skill tier. I like it because it has a higher base damage than the M45. But I'm also losing that target out of cover. So, I mean, it's really up to you. You can use whatever you want. And if you wanted to put like a little bit of firearms or something on this build, then at least that way you could get your shield up to tier 6. That's really up to you. Now, the rest of the gear is designed pretty simply. I'm using the armor rolls with crit chance, crit damage, and a couple regen rolls. I'm using Golan, I'm using Bellstone, and I'm using the named Murakami. But I'm also using the Grupo Sombra for that crit hit damage, and I'm also using the Contractor's Gloves for that extra damage to armor. But the biggest thing is, I see a lot of people opting for the Crusader Shield. And obviously it did take a significant nerf with TU11. Now at least the skill itself says it has a ×6 multiplier for PvP damage, which it is a lot. And I don't know if it's quite ×6, but the shield does definitely go down faster. And obviously they did that because they knew that everyone was going to be using the armor meta. So, everyone was going to have a tier 6 shield pretty much. And with all the changes that they made and all these up-close gear sets, they didn't want it to be extremely, extremely strong like it was basically going to be. I mean, it's still decent, but at least in PvP, in my book, I don't think that it is really the best choice. Just because, I mean, the idea of being staggered for as long as your shield is active isn't really appealing to me. So I wanted to go into the tank aspect of this. I wanted to be, a lot tankier than I would be with just the Crusader shield. So I think the Bulwark does an excellent job with that. I'm able to actually tank more damage than I could with the Crusader shield. So I can easily take a fully charged magazine from a Lady Death, basically just burn out all their stacks, ruin their, their damage boost, and use that as basically a entry tool to win the fight. Now for the second skill, I generally just, by default went with Riot Foam. But I'll be honest, of all the matches that I played, of all the testing that I did with this build, I could not really say that I used Riot Foam very often. I mean, I tried a few times, just to like slow down players who were running away or, something to that effect. But overall, I just constantly kept forgetting to use it. It's not exactly my bag of tea. I don't really think it's that great of a skill. I know a lot of people just, swear by the Riot Foam. A lot of people scream and cry about the Riot Foam. But to be honest, if you are in a good situation, Riot Foam isn't going to do anything to you. If you are facing the enemy with your shield out, they spray it at you and try to run behind you, before they can even generally switch their weapon or before they can get behind you, you're probably already going to be out of the riot foam, and it's going to be kind of pointless. They're just going to get closer to you. That was it. Switching on and off to the riot foam, it just kind of gets in the way. It makes me lose DPS. It's not great. I don't like it. If anything, honestly, I would probably say go with a different skill. Go with the Stinger Hive just to distract them. Go with the Seeker Mine to stagger them. Go with a Striker Drone to just annoy them, or maybe even go with a EMP Sticky. That way you can disrupt healers very well. Now that is one thing that I've seen a lot more of with this patch, just because people can survive longer, so healing is more effective because you can obviously heal people and they don't just die instantly. So what this means is, again, yeah, I've seen a lot more healers and a lot more people dancing around a healer. Now if you use the Jammer Pulse, you can disrupt a wide variety of things in a large area. You can take out skills, which is beneficial. But if you're not a full skill build with full investment into status effects, you're only going to be disrupting the actual healer for like 2 or 3 seconds. But if you use the EMP Sticky, you're at least going to get a base duration of like 10 seconds. But yeah, so after playing around with it for a few days, what I can say is that, this old meta is still completely valid. I think it's still great to use in PvP. I think it's actually improved a little bit with the addition of the Bellstone Armory piece, just so you can get even more regen. But I would say that the key difference is probably in PvE versus PvP. Now in PvP, where you're not generally getting massive amounts of kills over and over and over again, or you're not kind of like chaining kills together, going from one kill to another to another to another, you're spending a lot more time kind of dancing around. I would say that having a more traditional high-end armor regen, armor build like, Intimidate and Adrenaline Rush with the Lady Death is probably still the better option for PvP. If we were going with PvE content, I would probably say that the Hunter's Fury build, with Memento or with Ridgeway's Pride is probably the better way to go. But yeah, guys, that's all I really wanted to say in this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.